Hello, my dear chess friends. Really quick review of round 5 of the New Zealand Champs, New Zealand Chess Congress, aka. So we are going to see some of the games there. There were quite a lot of resultative games as well as a lot of draws. So there's the leaders, David Silivincenti, Bob Smith playing board one. I will turn off the engine here. I believe that they played something similar to King's Indian, and it is called Makagonov system here. I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but there is another system. I believe that also Alexander Yermolinsky was playing the same system with bishop to g5 and had tremendous success. Uh, um, with that. So with this way we see bishop to e3 instead, then c5, which is also kind of interesting stuff. Basically, here it could transform to Marokzibine as well, but with the move h3 instead of f3. So the center is closed. Black starts to undermine that center right away, taking a symmetrical structure here in which, well, there is a similar system which was called the Averbach system when you play bishop to g2, then a bishop to g5, which is not too active for white, but black has got not a lot of counterplay there at all. So yeah, so here black starts to develop the pieces, castling, interesting knight maneuver into here, probably preparing something like b5, but it's really hardly believable that it is possible. In this case, a4 goes, yeah, b6. Uh, White is fully developed, black is still kind of um, trying to get some counterplay. So queen to e7, yeah, well, changing the bishops here. The g7 bishop is quite strong here, so with that absence, black might have some problems with the king, but it is hard to say at the moment because, yeah, well, the position is such that um, it is hard to get to the enemy's king, in fact, here for white. So going there, knight g5, well, okay, so some of the plans here exchanges, then b3, yeah, what kind of what kind of worries me that in the end game white would have his light square bishop and all the pawns on the light squares as well, so that might be a bit of a drawback here. H6, the knight goes there, exchanges happen there, and bishop to f5, check, covering g5, exchanges here, and frankly saying, well, that's already kind of drawish position, right? Well, here, once the queens are gone, I believe that the black might try to get some kind of counterplay here because all these pawns are fixated on the light squares. But again, it's really hard to infiltrate in here. So obviously, white prevents any kind of activities of such. And then I believe that yeah, he tries to get some of the attack on the king's side as well. Again, all of the pawns up, the pawns here. Well, yeah, well, it's really hard to attack that pawn anyways. So now some try here, going away, taking exchange of the queens, and frankly that is drawish um, endgame because, well, black can't really infiltrate anywhere in here. If he places his knight to f5, the exchange would happen, and then it's a draw, so the position is locked basically, right? There is no infiltration squares here, so there was a lot of some of the tries here. Just white just comes and just basically waits here. If black tried to get over through that side, but here the bishop actually dominates the knight, and knight doesn't have any infiltration squares anyway. So repeating the position again, going there, and yeah, a lot of repetition again. So yeah, and finally the draw was agreed here. Yeah, definitely like really smooth position. Nobody has an advantage in here. Next, here there was interesting game between Herman van Risdijk and Elishan. So here it was uh, um, it's a so-called time of variation, in which the usual play was a bishop to d3 and then castling, and then a lot of other play here. Once black plays a knight to c6, white actually changes that, and then black takes with the b pawn, then try to advance d5, which is kind of mainstream here, but here white plays c4 right away, which kind of transforms to some kind of a Maroczy bind again, but black could actually sacrifice that bishop as well for that knight to be able to double the pawns, although it is not really advisable. And yeah, here we go. Black has got really a free game here and two bishops. The game would be kind of semi-open, which is good for black. White starts to pressurize a bit, and in this case, yeah, black has got really nice maneuver in the end there, which white overlooks. He starts to pressure here as well, opening the a file. Now the king is a little bit compromised too, so um, okay, but the position on the queen's flank is locked, and now here comes an interesting maneuver where um, e4 pawn is getting actually lost. So d3 here, and the pawn is gone. Instead of that, I believe that was probably a better way to deal with that. Um, Obviously, he didn't really blunder this e pawn. He saw that it is coming, but was there any way to defend that? In fact, we would just think probably, well, if f3, then what? Then this way, right, or something. I'll just quickly see. So if e3, he will start to attack on the king's side. Then going there, right? So yeah, it's really hard to get rid of that rook. Black even sacrificed this exchange here in order to attack the enemy's king. So black's position is way too strong, and that's what happens. Next is just white's position gradually gets worse and worse, and here Herman resigned. Okay, then this is the game between Russell Dive and Semi Shoka. So here Russell plays in his usual manner. It is Feng Chetan the bishop and going with those little structures similar to King's India. So this is King's India for sure. This is called classical variation here with bishop on g2, even played between Botvinnik and Mikhail Tal at some point. a6 is a different move to the game, but it comes to similar structure here. White keeps some kind of pressure here as well. Black is a little bit cramped, but nothing too serious, in fact. And once the game progresses, white could have some of the advantage here, but it's really hard to spot without the engine, of course, right? Engine is always right, but yeah, here it comes to some kind of tension on the king's flank as well. And in fact, well, we can say that with this kind of position, white definitely has got some advantage, right? But then some reason he returned the exchange here. Maybe it is not a bad idea either that he tries to catch the bishop. So basically, white has got two pieces for a rook, which is also kind of advantageous, but black has got way too many pawns here, and that might actually lead to some kind of counterplay, I believe. So going there. Now, around here, computer says it is basically draw, and white tries to organize some kind of an attack on the king's side, but it's really hard to do. Now, interesting here, if he takes here, checkmate, of course, going away, check, going away, taking, taking, changing. And in fact, even though white has got an extra piece, it is kind of hard to um, prevent that plan. But the bishop just goes back, right? So yeah, what happened? Take the well, probably taking there was not really ideal. Just going there, going there. Okay, now white has got advantage again, but black takes the c pawn, right? So c pawn is gone. If there is any win here, it is tremendously hard. So taking is said by computer to be a crucial mistake. But what would you do here? White cannot really capture that pawn, so computer recommends knight c3 here. Since bishop controls the e2 square, then we probably need to bring the knight into the play as well. So check there, going g3, going there. It's really hard to get to this position, in fact, right? So check, check. Yeah, well, that's kind of really hard to, and the knight bishop goes there and this pawn falls. But yeah, that requires quite a vision here, and obviously that didn't really happen, and it's well hard to blame anybody because that's yeah. This is a draw because well black just comes and harasses the bishop, and then white needs to sacrifice one of the pieces for a pawn. Therefore, it's a draw. Next, Nicholas Crowd was playing against Leo McLaren. Lirop always plays this really interesting variation with a6 in the second move, but Nicholas comes with the Leonardo's own attacks. Uh, so so-called Lapin attack with c3, but it is kind of transposition here with the unnecessary move on a6 here. So here white definitely has got advantage. In the after long maneuvering here, um, white has got really nice position. Um, Also some blunders there, but basically what happens is white gets two pieces for a rook and a pawn, and that allows some of the kind of um, weakening of the king's position allows white to regroup and start a serious attack. See, those pawns are really weak, which which can be really good because white just checkmates right here. So yeah, a little resigned. Now next game, Daniel Gong against Edward Rines, quite a strong CM. So here it comes, interestingly, from Philidor to some kind of Piet's defense, but yeah, it is more like red defense in this case. So everything goes quite sharp here from this move. It looks like black actually wins an exchange here, but you see the computer says it's a wrong move because um, this check comes and black actually loses the right to castle, and that's much more valuable than exchange because this knight is gonna be stranded here. The bishop on c5 is gonna be attacked many times now. So now another interesting stuff. F7 is under attack. Checkmate was, and then white starts to harass the enemy's queen. So it goes from one point to another. Now this bishop falls. There is no way to take that bishop, I believe. So if the bishop, sorry, to, to take that knight. So if knight is falls, I believe that this taking would probably lead to. Let's just verify. So the take leads to. Okay, so it's protected only by the queen. Therefore, we can just go that way. Yeah. and then we win the knight, also creating a checkmate threat here. So here we go. So now taking, changing the queens. Oh, hang on, where were we? So we were there, knight d5 here, queen d5, take, knight to here to b5, and the idea was to take here, right? So the knight was attacked, knight should go, then white takes the knight on h1. Basically now white has got two pieces for a rook, right? So and it manifests his advantage because in addition to that he's got an extra pawn and then another pawn will fall probably, and that's yeah, that declares that white has got significant advantage in this case. And Daniel just converted that quite nicely, taking one more pawn here, check, then the pawns on the queen's side is actually are actually moving forward, and here black resigned because yeah, the position is quite dire. He can't really stop those pawns from marching, as well as infiltration on the e-file and so on. So yeah, brilliant play by Daniel. Anthony Kerr and Laila Temirghazi. I think Anthony played the same variation of Caro-Kann defense, where he places the knight on e5 and then exchanges on c6, or once the black is covering by the bishop, he takes that bishop, which gives him two bishop advantage, right? But well, okay, as soon as we see it is not really um, doesn't really give that much to black to claim any advantage in here. All right, so everything is getting exchanged. Now, once the one of the a pair of the bishops is gone, white doesn't have any advantage in here, and here black's knight is not really worse than the his bishop. So here everything is getting yeah, they're maneuvering, and then on this move they agreed to a draw. Okay, next Hao Tang playing against Ryan Winter, and this way it was, I believe they just exchange variation of, no, sorry, it was Ragozin defense with rare move queen to a4, but it was also equally interesting because I believe that Kurana was also facing the same thing. So we'll see. Yeah, so that's all theory, it looks like. And but according to my friend of mine, FIDE master from Ukraine, Andrei Punin, this one is this variation is quite favorable for black. I mean, black has got no problem there. So yeah, still a lot of things to watch out, and the strategy of this particular game goes as per Queen's Gambit Declined, where white tries to perform the minority attack on the queen's side. So here we go. Then black also counterplays on the king side, tries to at least. And that's an interesting moment here, pardon me. So black plays b5, trying to lock the queen side. But then here, I believe that, yeah, what was it a mistake? Because white could start to use that in order to open up the A file and then infiltrate along that. So for that rook e1, um, black would need to change here, then getting the really weak pawn on a6. And if he doesn't change, then he needs to do something. Well, he would lose his light square bishop, right? Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing to remember in this position. So yeah. Okay, but instead of that, there was a rook played that way, and then after some maneuvering, white has got the a file as he wanted, and black started to pressurize on the on the king's side. Exchanges happen. In this position, in fact, white has got an advantage according to computer, and it is clear because, well, that knight here is bound to defend the c6 square, the c6 pawn, and white has got a lot of, like the queens, the rooks are quite active. The queen can be brought into play as well. So, yeah, that seems like quite interesting. Black could place his knight on c4, of course, but it's gonna be just standing there, right? So, what's the problem? So here, white tries to think, solve things forcefully, and the idea was probably that this is the pin. This is quite a strong pin here, which would probably allow to do some things. And in fact, white just won one pawn. That's cool. But black plays this way and attacks the white's queen as well. And the rook is here, so white is forced to exchange the rooks now, and then go to that back with the rook, and therefore here, once black infiltrates, that's basically a draw, right? So there's nothing, no advantage for white whatsoever, even if he got an extra pawn. So yeah, and after that move, yeah, they agreed to a draw because indeed it is, yeah, there is no advantage to any side in here. Right, now Jasmine Zhang unfortunately lost her first game here, and that was d4 as usual for her. She usually plays also uh, the London system with different success, but here obviously Joshua Langford was well prepared to that system that she plays, and in the very beginning it was quite an interesting position here, where she started to claim the e5 square, which is f4. So this is a typical position for the London and all these kind of things like Pillsbury attack and that. But bear in mind that bishop here is gonna get stranded, right? So it has no future unless you can change that for something or some. So here, um, again in this position, black has got no problems at all. So she starts to pressurize here. E3 was under attack. The white needed to defend that, and here g4 comes. So she is performing her usual attack on the king side, going forward. But black has got his counterplay as well. Here it is really hard to infiltrate since black controls e4 square and that. So yeah, it's really hard to open lines here on the on the king's side. She goes there. Okay, b7, going there, trying to create some kind of some of combinatory attacks here, like on f6 check and then there. But g6 basically finishes everything. She can go there with check, but well, everything is going to be exchanged on f6 and she's going to lose a pawn. So she goes back. Now black starts to pressurize on the queen side, and bear in mind that the enemy's the white's king is not castled. So once the game is open, white might get some problems. Check there, sure, going king just goes away. Exchange on e4. Well, not quite sure what for, but probably just releasing the pressure here because yeah, black starts to get a lot of pressure on the queen side now. So trying to block the queen side, changing on d4, going to f5, exchange on f5. Black has got no problem absolutely, and now, well, those pawns can be really weak. Black will start to pressurize on just a second, pressurize on queen side, and white cannot really castle anymore on the king side. So we're looking at some significant advantage for black. Well, trying to break this chain here is probably not necessary because, well, what for? The king is quite safe, so was there any need to do so? Don't know. Check, going with the h pawn, so it's this desperate moves already. It's like trying to open the files here. Taking there, well, again, what for? That was actually not really necessary here because black's king suddenly became open. So what was the whole idea of that exchange of the pawns. Maybe black didn't have a plan in that time and started to just move along. Okay, so now black's king seems to be safe, and the pressure on the queen side starts to grow. White tries to evacuate her king to the king side, moving the pawns because they were under tremendous pressure there. And then, yeah, well, this position is not too bad actually, right? White has got the pawns straightened here, and yeah, there's potentially no breakdown or anything. Okay, so start of some kind of interesting maneuvering here. I'm not quite sure what was meant there. And in fact, what was there is probably like a balanced position at this point. And in fact, the computer says that it is once the hang on a second. So in this position, white has got a really serious advantage. Okay, goes away, maneuvering with the queen, taking check, going with the knight. So the pawn chain is really nicely blocked here as well. In here, actually, computer says white has advantage. Why? Because of those past pawns, of course. So we can regroup and we can start trying push those pawns, like going with the queen forward, and then yeah, definitely black might be under some pressure in here. So some of the maneuvering happening again. King goes to safety. Now black tries to open files here just to get at least some counterplay. And here comes the mistake. So what was the idea to break your own chain, which was perfectly safe here? Um, that's what I don't understand, frankly. So just go in there. Now look at this tremendous pressure on that rank. So White just created a problem for herself on the like without any necessity. The rooks, okay, so the rooks are shifting now to the rank, and that's already one for black. What a turnover. So yeah, well now, yeah, well, sacrificing the exchange, there's nothing to do. Yeah, and here comes the final blow. Yeah, white resigned. My goodness, what? Why would you just change the pawn there? Just keep your pawn chain intact. There was no absolutely no necessity to go there. Well, yeah, the chess is really dramatic. But anyways, here is the game between David Zhu and Michael Soul. So it was Catalan. Um, exchange Catalan here, and then well, what White tries to do here is just to pressurize on the C file, but it's really hard to perform. Like well, he could get back one pawn, but probably not two. That was the whole idea of exchanging the nice Catalan bishop to the knight on C6. But basically, white doesn't really succeed here to do so. Black doesn't have any pressure either, so after all these exchanges here and repeating the position a couple of times, then going to another position, then repeating it again, so basically there was a draw agreed after a while. So some of the exchanges there, and no side can make any progress here, so yeah, a draw was agreed. Ben Haig won Dachimao, and here it was d4 and then c4. Dachi usually goes for Queen's Gambit declined, or in this case the Ragozin defense, which is quite popular these days. Similar to basically Nimzo Indian. So taking there, as typical position here, g5, going there, changing at c3. Usually black goes c5 in here, but c6 is equally played. So here it is more resembles that like exchange queen's gambit declined. Going there, now trying to prevent the minority attack there. And in fact, well, the positions is quite equal here. Yeah, well, white can't really go with the minority attack. He can't really go with the e4 push here either. So yeah, the position is quite balanced. Now another interesting maneuver in these structures, black knight comes to c4. Currently it is not really feasible because b3 could be played, and that's what being played on next move. If it was before, then the knight will definitely find a really nice stand on c4, but not in this position. The maneuvering. Here goes that. And again, the position is equal despite of this really weak pawn on c6. Black has got two bishops, quite nice. I also did the lines here, lined here. You could potentially start some kind of attacks on the king side, potentially, but not necessarily. Now comes the queen exchange, and it happens. Again, the position is equal at the moment. So changing on d3, instead of d3, Ben takes on a3, which is, well, okay, so yeah, bishop just goes away. White can't really double at the moment on the b file, so I think that's what black should do probably, and that's what he goes for. So going there, the first rank was quite weak. So maybe, well, I'm not quite sure. Maybe we could just go maybe that way and try to create the battery on this B file, and also protecting the C4 bishop. I don't know, but probably, yeah, just going there. Now knight starts to jump around. Still position is quite equal, so both sides just improving their pieces. Going there, yeah, that was predictable for sure. Going there, trying to exchange a pair of rooks, cool bananas. Going there, now white starts to create some of the attack on the king side, whereas all of the pieces for black are on the queen side. So taking there. Now white has got a really weak pawn here, so maybe relocation there would be also interesting. Sadly for black, he can't really block the queen's flank, so white would infiltrate on b file then. So no, maybe just going that way would be interesting. Um, yeah, attacking from behind with the rook at some point, and that's what it goes. Going back, king goes closer. F3 again, nothing for white so far, really. Now in this position, it's hard to understand why this is a mistake, but probably because the pawn is fixated and white would start to attack that, giving a tempo actually to regroup. So basically, yeah, king was perfectly okay there, but rook b1 again would be interesting for me at least. I don't know, and the computer says so as well. So we need to harass the enemy's king from behind here and also attack the pawns. Otherwise, what we are talking about here. But he goes with the king. H5 goes further, going backwards, which is again retreating was not really a good option here, I believe. Going there. Now white captures the b file here, and that's what was fatal because the knight starts to jump and all of the pawns are suddenly gonna be really weak and fall. That was a huge mistake. Yeah, so here we go. Yeah, that's what exactly happened here, and Bean just technically gets a winning position here. Another pawn will fall soon, and in this position, yeah, that's a winning position for white with two pawns. Um, yeah, Black resigned. Really sad, because that she was playing quite well till the moment, and then he just got confused, probably not really knowing what plans to apply here. Well, that's okay. So far, he will learn. He's quite a talented young man. Okay, then William Liu played against Michael Steedman, and Michael, in his usual manner, just confused his opponent, and he is far superior in tactics. So, yeah, Black has got really easy win in this position right from the beginning, basically. Okay, and here Black won and White resigned. Now, next was Nick Cummins against Philip Aktimati, and yeah, that was basically Queen's Indian, with another fianchetto here, which is considered quite harmless, in fact. And here we come to the hedgehog system, in fact, right? So the only thing that is left is to play a6, and that's going to be hedgehog. So here we go, a typical hedgehog position in which there is a lot of different moves, like attacking the d6 pawn, but it is hard because if you move that way, knight moves to c5. Basically, you can try to move that away from there, but knight goes to e4 square, and so on and so forth. So here it is, the position is quite interesting, where white could also play e4, for example, or double the rooks or whatever. The computer also gives a lot of options here, which are slightly better for black, in fact. So yeah, going there, b5 is typical maneuver here, taking. I believe that taking on b5 with the knight is not that advantageous, although I would really be interested why not. So can take here for sure, but then we take here. What was the deal? Yeah, taking here. Okay, I can't take here because he takes, and yeah, okay, that makes sense. Going away, and then black would have counterplay against that pawn. Okay, so I'll trust that because the computer says -1 already, so I believe that it is going to be not too good for white to take it on b5. Okay, and in this case it is all going to maneuvering, and here, well, here comes the mistake, taking on b5. If you didn't take it before, now it is also really faces some uh, tactical solution, and here the queens exchanged, and basically black emerges with piece up, right? Extra piece, and yeah, well, definitely that's Philly won't be too um, struggling to convert one extra piece. Next, Oli Archer plays against Daniel. Gosh, I'm just really struggling. Sorry, I'm just really struggling to Weinhartzeli, I think. Weinhartzeli, that's how it's called. Weinhartzeli. Um, Now, here we go. And this is another London, where white doesn't really mind to exchange his dark square bishop. Um, and there it was, quite a quite an interesting push. And in fact, you know what? After that push, black offered a draw, which Oli actually accepted. But it is definitely white who is getting under pressure in this position. So he needs to retreat somewhere, maybe here or there. I'll turn off the engine at the moment. And the position looks like favorable for black, in fact. There's tremendous pressure here and so on, but maybe I need to check what the ratings of the players are, because maybe just black would be satisfied with a draw in here, um, not hoping to win or something. Who knows? Okay, next one is Nadia Braganza plays against Ben Thomas. It's really interesting to see her starting with c4. She was always like an e4 player, but maybe that was a specific preparation to a specific opponent. So here we go. That transforms to some kind of a Benoni structure. Yeah, e4. Yeah, okay. Exchange of the queens. And now here, taking the pawn, taking there, going 4, exchanging here, getting to the... Well, that bishop is actually really sorry here, so I believe that we are looking at some advantage for white in this position. So going, trying to catch the bishop there, exchanging, letting the bishop out, in fact. Well, that whole operation with h4, um, yeah, it was by default not successful because he could play h5 here, so maybe we could just keep that bishop here, maybe just playing something like that instead. So trying to cut off the bishop from getting back to game and then creating some kind of pressure along here. I don't know, hard to say. But black starts to get some counterplay here as well, so okay. Now black has got this really nice passer, but it's really hard to push that forward. And it is also like, yeah, the rook got behind that, so again in this position maybe there was another option to go with, not just attacking. So even if you go that way, he goes there. I believe you could go that way maybe. Can we go that way? He goes around, we go take that, and he goes there and he wins, right? Yep. Okay. And there is absolutely no possibility to get anything there. Okay. So in this case, yeah. White has also got the passer here, so I believe that would save the day, in fact, and yeah, take there, and that's definitely a draw. White just sacrifices both pawns, changes that one, and it's a draw for sure. And the last one with Isabel Ning against Zachary Yu, and that's an interesting stuff that Isabel started to play, which is a quite popular move these days with the bishop to d2. Now, if we look at the statistics here, we see that well, black basically doesn't have any problems in this opening, apart from several things that is not really advisable to move. And in fact, here, black chooses not a really popular um, play against that structure. It was castling that is advised now. And then we will see sudden change of the statistics here, which appear to be in white's favor, right? So that's a kind of catch if you use the database. Sometimes it shows you a real advantage for black, but if you go further with this move, suddenly, in most of the cases, white has got advantage. So yeah, that's a bit of a catch here. So anyways, changing there, and that's the whole point. You emerge with no double pawns in here, but you waste too much time of moving that bishop around, whereas black is already castled and has no problem in this position. Taking there, and as you see, it is just, yeah, quick equalizing and absolutely no problems for black. After some of the play here, I believe that they exchange everything. Oh no, that becomes a little bit sharp in this position. So here, in fact, there was a huge blunder for for black. Why would black go that way? So he was afraid of going there, right? And then checkmating. But you could play this way as well and then just play f6 and there is no checkmate at all. Rook d5 is recommended by the computer. It seems interesting because what would you do about that? And the answer is f6. Strangely, you can't take because the rook has pinned. That's definitely computer play, of course, but yeah. So now bishop king to here, and I believe that here, well, you could win. It looks like. So going there. So you are standing to checkmate him, and then that move comes. How would we continue the attack? Maybe like g4 in here. G4 would be okay because we're trying to open up the files. Yeah, this is gonna be check, but then we just go away, right? Because check. Well, no, that's I see white was not really used in here because after that, um, well, taking here would be quite dangerous. It seems like dangerous. But say if black plays some kind of inferior move here, what would white do? Going there probably as well. Or maybe there is a way to move the rook into the battle as well. So I'm not quite sure. Let's just see what computer says in this case. Because I clearly can't see anything. So let's just see this way. So what would you do? Going there, attacking the queen. Now if queen goes away, say here, what's the problem? The problem is that rook is gonna get harassed and then checkmate. Clever, very clever, and that's what white missed too. Okay, it's hard to see, of course. I didn't see that, so I'm not saying that I'm just having good tactical vision, but yeah, it's hard to see for everybody, I believe. So now the idea is exactly to go there after some um, preparation. So going d5, blocking the line, going there after. Well, currently the position is equal because black has already taken the stand now, but now white blunders. Now white blunders. Uh, that one is protected, right? So black could go that way and threaten check, right? Check, check, and then checkmate, I believe. So if we go there, check, king goes away, goes takes there, check, he goes away, check, he goes away. And here should be some kind of a final blow, right? Which I don't see. Maybe I just already missed that one. Check here, of course, gosh. My checkmate in one. Yes, that's what it is. But well, maybe the people they were under time pressure at the moment here, and I think it was time pressure because I see that there's 42 seconds and 1 minute there, so definitely it was under pressure here. Checking here, going away. Now rook goes there, taking the rook. Okay, so there was a blunder, right? Or something. Taking the air, check, going away, check, going away, check, going away, check, going away. So here, well, black started to play for a win now, but then he realizes that, well, actually, he might not even do that. And they agreed on a draw here. Well, quite well, that's an interesting game, in fact, and a lot of tactics there. Mm, Nobody to blame because looks like both of them were in time trouble and not really finding the best continuations there because they were not that trivial. But draw is kind of quite a good result for both, I believe. And Yeah, with this I probably will finish the reviewing of that uh, around 4 for the New Zealand Chess Congress. It is an interesting kind of thing for myself as well. I hope it is also interesting to somebody else, even apart from New Zealand. All right, guys. So with this, I will say goodbye to you. I will be streaming usually a tomorrow during the daytime. And I bid you welcome here. Whoever wants to join Solving Tactics, I'll be there for you. Again, thank you. Whoever will be watching that in the record, and bye bye. Take care.